Got a Reinke machine with a Zematic panel, generator driven. This one, the call is out here. So he was walking in reverse, so going to my left here. And the next to last tower looks like it's run out ahead and left that end tower behind, which typically is not, it's not a very common issue since the end tower is kind of in charge. So tells me that we probably have something going on that next to last tower that's keeping it engaged when it's not supposed to. So we'll walk over here and see what speed he was running it on. Tell us if we may have an end tower issue as well. He was on 90%, so potentially an end tower issue, so that there's really no reason that the next to last tower should have got ahead of the end tower on 90%, but we'll run down to the end and see if we can't figure out what happened. All right, down here at the end tower, trying to confirm that that's exactly what happened. You can see that this end tower track was running pretty straight, and then it started to slide off this way. Whereas if somebody would have moved this machine back this way and got it crooked, there would just be a circular track this way where it got crooked. But you can see this gradually started to slide off. So that next to last tower, even though this machine was running on 90% and this end tower was only taking about a 6-second break every minute, basically cycling off for 6 seconds and then cycling back on for 54 seconds, being on a 60-second timer. During that 6-second period, that next to last tower never stopped. So it looks like it probably took a couple of cycles here for it to get way out of line like it is. But you can see that this forward side tire, the tire closest to me, just basically got drug up out of the track by that next to last tower advancing when it wasn't supposed to. So we'll go down there and see if we can identify something in the tower that's going to tell us what's going on. All right, up here in the tower now on the next to last, not really seeing any indicators of anything that could have potentially made this go haywire. Contactor is released. There is some white chalky substance on there, which kind of tells me it may have some hours on it. It looks relatively in good shape, but we're gonna go ahead and put one of these on there and a micro switch just to cover our bases on one of those getting stuck. One thing I was hoping to see was this bottom switch. I was really hoping to see it stuck in. It looks to be moving freely and clicking both directions, or opening and closing. So that's kind of what I was hoping that it would be, so it would be a definitive answer. All right, we're gonna check that walk stop switch real quick, set you up where you can kind of see that meter. And all I'm gonna do is check between common and normally open. I try to get around there where I can see what's going on. Okay, there's common and normally closed. And what I'm looking for is for it to not articulate one way or the other at least once. Do it about 10 or 15 times, and now I'm on the normally open side. And normally open is one direction, normally closed is another direction. I don't know Reinke's well enough to know what's what. And all I'm really doing here is just clicking that switch open and closed and trying to get it to fail while I'm doing that. At this point, it's not gonna fail. I'm gonna go ahead and just cover our bases and make sure that it gets replaced no matter what. Machine's, a decade or more old. This is a problem tower. We wanna go ahead and eliminate any potential problems here. So we'll go ahead and put that on just in case, even though it does not look like it's failing at this point. But for 15 bucks and a little bit of time, it'll give us some peace of mind. But I'm really thinking more than likely this contactor was getting some induced voltage somewhere and holding itself in. It could probably do that off of, contactors will do it off of 40 volts to 80 volts. It just depends on how much induced they're picking up and the the correct conditions. So we'll swap that stuff out and test this machine, see if we can't make this thing not run away anymore. All right, so we've changed the contact and the micro switch, and then I put what I call a neutral strap, and I'm sure there's a more technical term than that, but essentially just bring a wire straight from the ground lug to the neutral side of that contactor and tie the neutral in of this machine to ground. It's tied together at the pivot panel in the transformer, the main panel transformer. So we're just kind of doubling up on that down here. And what I'm doing there with that, my goal is to, if there's any induced voltage coming off of any of the components here, getting down that neutral wire, and, you know, keeping that contactor engaged, that coil engaged somehow, whether it be induced voltage off of the directional wire that feeds the coil, or it's induced voltage off the neutral. It should dissipate through that neutral strap, basically going from the white wire in the contactor straight to ground. I put the lid on already, and like I said, these Reinke lids don't come off very easy, otherwise I'd show that. But we're just gonna watch this machine walk for a little while. I've got it in the same condition that he had it walking in, at 90% in reverse. All I did was straighten the machine up after I replaced my parts, and I've watched this next to last tower cycle a couple times. I watched it cycle yesterday, so it's an intermittent issue. This is the second time we've been here. The first time was not a lot of the story was understood, so I'm trying to get more of that understood today, and found out it was a runaway situation, it was kind of stuck in the mud back there yesterday, so that kind of polluted the story a little bit. But I'm gonna let it walk for 15 or 20 minutes here while I watch it, and see if we can't get it to mess up at all. In all theory, it should be fixed now. And like I was talking about earlier, this machine in tower is going to run for about 54 seconds, give or take, and then it'll stop for about 6. And that's 90%. And if I'm doing my math right in my head, I haven't done that on a calculator or anything, but just doing the math in my head, it should stop for about 6 seconds like that. What was happening is that next to last tower was just continuously running, and during this 6-second period, that next to last tower would periodically just get more and more and more ahead of the end tower, where it's supposed to follow this one, whatever was keeping it engaged, whether it be induced voltage, or maybe that micro switch was failing and was keeping the contactor pulled in, or whatever the situation may be. We've hopefully rectified that with the 2 steps that we've taken. But just to kind of explain how you get a runaway tower situation, this tower will stop briefly if you're not at 100%. Like I said, he has the percent timer on 90%. So as this tower stops, we should expect to see that one cycle off as well. It should cycle on and off periodically as the end tower's walking. Okay, end tower just stopped. Next to last tower just stopped. And each tower subsequently will follow that pattern. So now that this one takes off, in just a second, that one's gonna take off, and then just after it, the next one in will take off. There it goes. It'll be hard to see, but the next one in will also take off. Looks like it's going. And they just kind of will follow the leader like that throughout the field. So in this situation, that one took off and ran on its own independently when it wasn't supposed to. I think we've solved that problem. Again, I'll just watch it for a little while, and hopefully that'll be it on this one.